Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're tracing the completely unlikely journey of how a super obscure Italian street food somehow crossed an ocean and became, well, an absolute staple of the American diet. I mean, think about the pizza you probably had last Friday night, or that slice you grabbed on your lunch break. Where did it actually come from? And how did it get here? We're gonna unpack exactly how that happened, step by step. Okay, let's dive into this with a number that is just staggering. 3 billion. Yep, 3 billion. That is roughly the number of pizzas Americans eat every single year. So we aren't just talking about a popular menu item here. We're talking about a massive, full-blown cultural obsession that has literally swept the entire nation. I mean, 3 billion pizzas? That's a true phenomenon. To put that astronomical volume into perspective, it equals about 23 pounds of pizza per person every single year. And honestly, if you look around, it makes perfect sense, right? You'll find it in school cafeterias, it's sold on practically every street corner, and it is the mandatory, undisputed centerpiece of almost every Super Bowl party in the country. It's just a totally inescapable part of our diet today. But here is the fascinating historical contrast. And really, this is the central mystery of our explainer today. Did you know that just 100 years ago, most Americans had never even heard of pizza? Like, no idea what it was. It was virtually unknown to the general public. So how exactly did this humble, highly localized street food conquer America? How did we go from literally zero recognition to eating 3 billion of these things a year? Well, to really understand this, we need to travel back to Naples, Italy, in the late 1800s. And I want you to strip away all the modern, glamorous restaurant experiences you might associate with Italian food today. In Naples back then, pizza wasn't a luxury item. Far from it. It was a basic necessity, born out of some pretty harsh realities. A lot of the working poor lived in these tiny, cramped rooms that didn't even have kitchens. They desperately needed cheap, hot food that they could just buy directly on the street, just to survive. And this brilliantly illustrates just how stark that contrast really is. Instead of the loaded, cheesy masterpieces you and I are used to ordering, 19th century pizza was just cheap street food. It was a very basic flatbread sold right out in the open by street vendors, specifically targeting the city's working class. It was explicitly designed to do 3 things: be fast, be filling, and above all, be affordable for folks who had practically nothing. So the original Neapolitan recipe was incredibly straightforward. We're basically talking about simple flatbread dough topped with crushed tomatoes, a quick drizzle of olive oil, and maybe, just maybe, if they were lucky, a little bit of local cheese if it was available. These ingredients were cheap, easy to get, and provided maximum energy for the lowest possible cost. It was essentially the absolute earliest, rawest version of fast food. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is this. This was the food of survival. It wasn't a delicacy, it wasn't fine dining. It was literally a vital way for the impoverished to simply make it through the day. But, incredibly, this very same survival food was about to embark on a massive journey, traveling halfway around the world, packed right alongside the cherished memories and traditions of millions of immigrants who were looking for a better life. Which brings us to the great transatlantic threshold, their arrival in America. Because as millions of Italians made that incredibly difficult journey to a completely new land, they didn't just bring their physical belongings. No, they brought their rich language, their vibrant culture, and of course, they brought those beloved recipes that tasted like home. Without even knowing it, they were planting the seeds for what would eventually become an absolute empire. Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds. Because between 1880 and 1920, a massive wave of immigration kicked off, with over 4 million Italians arriving in the US. And as they arrived, they primarily settled in major urban centers, places like New York, Chicago, and Philadelphia. These dense city neighborhoods quickly became the very first American footholds for Italian culture, and inevitably for that trusty street food they brought across the ocean with them.
Now, right in the middle of that historic wave, something absolutely monumental happened. In 1905, America's very first official pizzeria opened its doors. It was called Lombardis, located right in New York City. Now, they weren't trying to invent something shiny and new here. Lombardis served the exact same authentic Neapolitan-style pizza from back home in Naples. It had that thin crust, those simple toppings we just talked about, and it was cooked to absolute perfection in a scorching hot coal-fired oven. It was just a direct, unfiltered slice of Naples.
Yet, despite this seemingly successful arrival on American shores, pizza did not immediately sweep the nation. Actually, far from it. For a really long time, it was just a hidden neighborhood secret. I mean, for decades after Lombardi's opened, pizza remained completely obscure to the rest of America. It was this highly localized comfort food enjoyed almost exclusively within those close-knit Italian-American communities. Basically, if you weren't part of that specific neighborhood, you probably still had absolutely no earthly idea what a pizza even was. The rest of America simply hadn't discovered it yet. So, to make that jump, that massive transition from a quiet neighborhood secret to a 3 billion pie a year national phenomenon, well, that was going to require a massive, world-altering catalyst. Because breaking pizza out of those isolated neighborhoods, that would